Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. We have another amazing guest for you today. We have with us Alicia Farricielli. Alicia grew up under strict conservative values that led to deep feelings of unworthiness and a crisis at 35, spurring her to embrace mindset work, inner child healing, and energy modalities that released decades of hurt in just 90 days. Now a certified life coach, inner child coach, and spiritual mentor, she helps others break free from the past, rediscover their worth, and find true fulfillment through techniques like meditation, journaling, and energy healing. Alicia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on here.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. We've got a lot of interesting things and a lot of interesting ground to cover. But before we do like to have a little icebreaker on this show. And the question for you today is, which cartoon character do you resonate with the most and why?
I mean, there's so many. I love Ariel from The Little Mermaid. Just because of her curiosity, I feel like that kind of embraces that, her childlike behaviors, and the ways that she kind of got herself into some trouble. But it was all kind of innocent for the craving for love. And so I kind of resonate with her for some reason. I've always just loved her. So I feel like she's a big, spectacular Disney character to embrace. So.
Yeah, I like that. I could definitely see that for sure. Yeah, no, I really like that one. It's got a lot of undertones of, the collector and, wanting to learn and wanting to be loved and wanting to just get out there and see things.
Yeah.
I like that one. So Alicia, let's sort of slide into it with something here. It is the question that we always like to ask is, what is procrastination to you? How do you define it? And what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah. So procrastination to me means that typically when I'm finding myself procrastinating for something, it's because I think I'm not good enough to do it, to be successful, because it's not going to be perfect. And so if it's not going to be perfect, then a lot of times I've found myself in the past holding myself back from even getting started. So it's almost like this freeze, like, your nervous system, my nervous system just kind of freezes. It's like, well, it's not going to be perfect. People might judge it. So therefore, I probably shouldn't even start it. Yeah. I took a lot of digging and working on myself to figure out that's why I procrastinate. Also, having diagnosed with ADHD, as ADHD people, we're kind of known for procrastination because we get into a habit of starting something and then we get distracted, and then we get overwhelmed because it's not going to be perfect. And so we shut down and we procrastinate finishing the project. That's been in my history before, for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's very true. And distractions are a big thing, definitely, for everyone in general. We know that there's no like real silver bullet, no real one cure all, right? But what's been your secret sauce for overcoming that procrastination?
I mean, I had to really figure out why I was doing it and realize that it was perfectionism. And where does that come from? That comes from my inner child. So doing a lot of inner child work and just realizing now it's like, just get started and just take the first step. You don't have to go from 0 to 20 in one time, step 1 to 20. You could just do the first little steps. So I was able to kind of back off and realize I need to do little baby steps. So now that's what I teach and I actually coach myself through is like these little baby steps. Let's just get started. What's step number 1? What's number 2? And by the time I know when I get into the flow of things, then I get going. If I'm procrastinating on a work project, it's probably because it's not in alignment with what I really want to do. I'm feeling I'm having to do it because either one, it worked for somebody else, or it was told to me that I should be doing it a certain way, or I saw somebody else do it. It looked exciting at the time, but it really wasn't something I really wanted to put forth my effort. And it's not on the laziness portion. It's more of it just wasn't worth it to me to do the work when I could be focusing on other stuff, which would take me distracted away from my main focus of doing other things. So if it doesn't line up and I feel like procrastinating throughout it and not doing the steps to it, I sit back and look at myself and I really, really deeply question and ask myself, why am I doing this? What's my intention behind even starting this project? Now, procrastination for like laundry and stuff too used to be a huge thing. Now I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to do it because if I do it, I'm going to feel better about the laundry being done. I mean, I've always been pretty OCD about the dishes anyway, but general chores and stuff too. It's like if I get started and I time block that off of my calendar, well, I have 15 minutes here in between calls. I'm just going to knock this laundry out. I'm just going to go knock it out and do it. Again, it's just that first step. Let me just get the laundry out of the laundry basket, put it on the bed, and start folding. Let me fold the first piece, and if I don't feel like folding the rest of it, I won't. There's never been a time I haven't folded the whole thing, because once I get started, I have to finish it.
Interesting. I like how you break that out, and you're right. Just following that Newtonian law, right? An object in motion tends to stay in motion until acted
Yeah.
upon by an external force.
Yeah.
That's a little bit too sciencey, but you did touch on something else that was interesting to me, and I wanted to get your take on it, especially since you're specifically an inner child coach. Now, I have my own preconceptions on this, so I'm going to just sort of erase that, and I want to hear it from you. When you're talking about the inner child and when you're working on that, how much does, those formative years, let's say between the ages of 0 and 9, really impact your development and your core values?
It impacts it so much more than we actually want to. Most people want to admit that. I find most people walk through life and they're like, well, I had a good childhood and that was just in the past. I need to move forward, which is true. It is in the past. You need to move forward, but you can't move forward sometimes until you have to go back to the past and start to relive the things of patterns of why you're doing certain things that you're doing. 0 to 9, I think, is, and even I'm going to go a little further, as I think in the mother's womb, the stress and emotions, there's lots of science coming out behind this, which I absolutely love to tie all this back in your mother's womb, and in the genetics being modified through parents, through their stress levels through the mother's womb and to the child. And so I think that a lot of it can start from that portion of it. When you're born, you have a traumatic birth coming through. Things like that too. So you can go a little bit further back to start some of the things that have impacted our first views of life, which has really impacted our adulthood. So if we go through and say for the ages of I was actually using an example too, is imagine you're for a baby and you're crying in your crib and your parents, either your parents or your caregivers or whoever is, taking care of you, doesn't get to you in time and you feel neglected as a baby. That neglect is still sitting subconsciously inside of you. Now, it doesn't mean that your parents did anything wrong. Maybe that was their parenting style that they wanted to for certain reasons, or maybe they just couldn't get to you at the time. They're all human beings. Your parents are human beings too. So we have to look at that portion of it. But that neglect goes on. So throughout, say from that time that you're a baby, and then when you turn 2, you're 2, your mom doesn't pick you, your caregiver doesn't pick you up whenever you wanted to be picked up and coddled. And they told you, maybe they said, be quiet. Maybe you're in the middle of a store, or for me, like a church service or something, and you were told to be quiet. But you're as a child, you don't really understand, because your only communication is to get attention. And the way you get attention is to verbalize it usually, or to act in a certain way. And so you don't quite understand. And that's kind of where the parenting starts to come in, to teach you the ways that are acceptable to your parents' standards, or whatever they think the societal standards are, the way that you need to behave. Now, I'm not saying this is all bad at all, because there is multiple layers here to it. But imagine that 2-year-old. So then you have the second neglect thing that's subconsciously inside of you. Even if your parents picked you up, I'm saying your parents, maybe you had caregivers, your grandparents, whoever, your caregiver picked you up, maybe it was 5 minutes later, you still have that neglect. Now imagine going to your 9 or 10, imagine you're in school and I'm just saying you're struggling. This is not technically my childhood, I'm just using scenarios here. Imagine you're 8, 9, 10 and you're in school and you're struggling in, say, math or science or something. And you're bringing home grades that are less acceptable to your parents. And you get in trouble for that. Or imagine your teacher is not communicating and teaching you in the mannerism that you learned with. Because everybody has different ways of learning that they resonate better with. And unfortunately, typically most kids are stuck in schools that teach you one way. So imagine if you have dyslexia, you have some other type of, learning. They call learning disabilities. I think it's a learning gift in certain ways. Imagine you have that and you're not getting the attention that you need from your own. There's neglect too. But imagine if you don't have all this neglect going on, like the first 2 things that happen, you're probably more likely to be able to accept and know how to ask for attention. But if you have this subconscious neglect going on throughout your entire childhood, then it comes with the best of parents. So it's not necessarily a parenting mistake or caregiver mistake. It has to be, again, we're all human. Parents are human. Caregivers are human. But imagine that. So that's kind of what the inner child wounds are. Now, I'm not talking about major traumas that happen to where you were abused, physically, sexually, like major emotional abuse. That's a whole different scenario. I'm talking about the inner child wounds that we carry throughout our time. So now we carry this throughout our time. We go through adolescence, and what happens in adolescence? You start to discover your sexuality. You start to discover your attraction to certain other people. What if those people don't receive that, give you that same likeness and love back? And it happens because we're all developing. You have breakups. You have friendships that don't turn, especially as girls, I feel like that was big thing was like, we had friendships. One day somebody was your friend and one day they weren't in the middle school. And then you get into high school, and then you get into adulthood and you're not seeking the attention. So then we go and just create patterns in our lives throughout. Could be business wise. We're always seeking more because we're seeking that love that we felt that we had neglect in our heart. Or we're seeking that from another person, or maybe we're pushing people away. So the patterns that we're having have to come down to the childhood things that happened to us, little wounds that we haven't healed. And everyone has these little wounds, some of these little wounds inside of them. And it's not necessarily something bad. It's just something we need to address and to start to overcome in order to move forward, especially procrastination in our lives.
No, thank you for sharing all that, Alicia. I mean, you've hit on a lot of information in there, and I'd like to go back just to highlight a couple of those points. The first thing that you said too, and here's where we can get, maybe a little more compassion for babies as well, right? Because, and I never really thought of it this way before. I was probably one of the first ones, even with my own daughter, and I cringe when I think about it. Is that when you hear them crying, it's like, oh, just shut them up. There's a crying baby on the plane. Oh, just shut them up. It's annoying.
I totally feel that.
But, and this is what changed my viewpoint on that, is that you have to understand that these babies came out into the world. They were inside let's say a perfectly climate controlled area, right? They had everything they needed, their food, their warmth, everything. They go out, and so new babies really do cry all the time, simply because everything they're experiencing up until that point in their life is the worst thing they've experienced in their life.
Yeah. They need love and safety.
And just to go back really quick over you were talking about, the childhood information and stuff. And it is interesting because, before this was kind of in the area of woo-woo where, information isn't passed down generationally. Well, it kind of is because, in DNA, well, first of all, everything's energy. We know that. Secondly, we know that energy carries information. And so we know that also, we don't know how exactly there's new advances in that, but the DNA actually carries, information from the mother and from the father.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how we know, intrinsically, if we're supposed to be afraid of water or afraid of the dark. Some of these things, if we've never been exposed to it, and yet we have those predispositions.
Yeah.
So obviously that comes like that, right? And sort of the last thing, I want to kind of give this back to you too, because one of the things that I was thinking with coral child wounds, and it's something I deal with every day with my own, my own daughter too, is that the world is so different. I mean, they're inundated with information, inundated with social media, inundated with stimulus pretty much 24/7. What do you think that is doing to child wounds today as compared to, say, child wounds of, I don't know, 30 years ago?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, this is kind of all opinionated based. And then some of the stuff I've, did a lot of kind of research behind it. I think our children today are so inundated and they're almost numbing out through technology. And children aren't the only one doing it. I find adults probably doing it, if not more. We're numbing out. We're sitting on our phones. We're scrolling. We're playing games. We're on Facebook, on Instagram, Facebook, wherever platforms they are. We're watching videos. We're feeding into all the chaos going on in the world, and we're numbing out. We're watching Netflix. We're watching all these shows that really don't have a meanings and purpose to them and really give any type of value enrichment in our lives. And I'm not saying that's bad, because sometimes we do need to numb out. We do need to give our minds and our brain a rest. And I'm not at all criticizing that, but we are definitely numbing out. And we're teaching our kids from the day they're born that, hey, it's okay to numb out. It's okay, to do this, and I'm absolutely not criticizing parents at all, because I feel and empathize with you. But we're giving our kids tablets when they're pitching fits, when they're doing things. Or we have to entertain them. Kids are not entertaining, and my kids are in their 20s, so they're at the very tail end of I call the tablet the generation. They were in the, old enough to, I guess, have phones and to be able to use them and talk and make calls and be on their own more. But now we're just giving kids when they're 2 or 3 years old, here's a phone or tablet. Go numb yourself out. Let's not have a conversation around why you're pitching this fit, or what is your actual need. They're not even taught what their needs are. And again, I'm not criticizing and judging parents for this, because if I was a parent today, I would probably find myself doing it at times too. But instead of, having the kid do something creative or something fun, we're giving them a tablet. We're giving them numbing tools to numb out. And so what does that create when they're going through life? They don't know how to regulate their emotions. They don't know how to dig into their emotions. So we've had a whole generation, and I'm called almost the boomer generation and above, that have taught the younger generation, and I'm calling myself the younger generation, I don't feel young, but to not express their emotions, because you don't express your emotions. You hold it in and you move on and you keep going. That was their survival mechanism. Maybe not the boomer generation, but the generation I think it's the silent, whatever. That was their coping mechanism, their survival mechanisms that they had to have, because they were in the Great Depression. They were working. They had, imagine all the things that revolutionizing going through, they had to deal with. So that was passed on to the boomer generation. The boomer generation took that, and that was their parenting style, because they didn't receive the same type of love and affection from their parents, so it got passed on. So now what do we do as parents? We're getting to the Gen X or Z, whatever that is, and the millennial generation. That's the parents now, majority of the parents. What are we doing? We don't know how to absorb our emotions, and that we have not been taught to take care of our emotions and to let them process through us, and that emotions are okay. There's nothing wrong with being angry. There's nothing being sad. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just an emotion. We haven't been taught that. So what are we doing? We don't know how to do that. We can't teach other people how to do that. So then we're giving these vices and these things to the kids going down, numb yourself out. And we're doing the exact same thing as a society. I'm talking worldwide. I mean, majority probably more Western worldwide is what I'm talking about.
No, what you're saying is absolutely true, and again, I've been guilty of it. And, one of the things that I like to tell everybody in general is that we do the best that we can with the information that we have on hand. I mean,
Absolutely.
whether it's incomplete or, outright wrong in some cases, we do the best we can with what we know. And because, nobody sets out to do like, I know this, I'm going to do what's absolutely the worst possible thing I can with this. Right?
Yeah.
And the example that I like to give is actually doctors. Might not be a great example, but I say, well, you trust doctors to some extent, right?
Right.
And, back in the 1950s, they were all behind Marlboro and Camels, and, all doctors smoked Camels. And then, then the 1960s, 70s rolled around, and they're like, there's something here. They might be, they're not healthy, definitely, but, maybe they might be making you sick. The 1980, like, we're seeing some causality here, maybe. The 1990s, like, oh, my bad, we're giving you cancer here. Here's a little sticker on a pack of smokes. Don't do it.
And now you see a decline in smoking. And I'm talking in the Western. You go to Europe and you see tons, like, most people, you see a lot more like cigarette smoking going on there than you do. It's typically the U.S., I'm sure Canada and other areas. You see that. So it does work when you get the awareness. The first key is we have to have an awareness, and once you're aware of things, that's when the changes start to take place, and when you're going to want to start to take place. So if you don't have an awareness to it, and so that's why I tell, especially parents and ourselves, like things that we've done in our past or we've gone, we shouldn't have guilt and shame associated with us, because like you said before, that's how people all the time, we do the best that we can with the information that we're given, with what we know. Your parents did the best that they could. Most parents did the best they could, and their caregivers to provide for what they knew how to do that. They were their fears put into side, and especially in my case, put into place. All of their kids, they didn't want you to get hurt. They didn't want you to do this and do that, because they didn't want the best for you. Doesn't mean it was the best for you. But if we come from that and seeing that was their state of mind, we can start to have a little more compassion for it. But if we don't have compassion for that, it's hard for us to start to heal from it. So we have to kind of look at it from other people's points of views as well. So,
You hit on something that it's a very big topic, and it's topic of a lot of debate amongst coaches, therapists, psychologists. I've bumped into this a lot myself, and it seems like, and maybe, I'd like to get your take on it. It just seems like humanity as a whole, and I'm not saying everybody, because there are some people that are very, very self-aware, very young.
Mhm.
I myself probably wasn't too self-aware until even up to like 5 years ago, and I'm still getting it right. But it seems like we need to have some sort of catalyst, some sort of like horrendous thing for us to even start looking at ourselves. I'd like to disagree with that. And if somebody, maybe isn't aware of something, how would you say, or what would be something they could do to start to get that?
We'll have a degree of something that we're not happy with in our life. Deep down. I think we all have something that we don't like about ourselves deep down. And so when it hits to the point to where that's ruling our lives, or to the point where like we hit and we're like, you know what, we can actually probably have better. We don't have to live like this anymore. Because even people who are running around just in a total state of scarcity, total state of nervous system dysregulation, total state of everything, they don't quite realize something's wrong because that's normal for them. But once they hit that one little bump, or they see that one person that's not like that, they actually come across someone who has this joy about themselves. That's, I think, when the work starts to happen. I think, and there are people who there are definitely people who were born into this world, and I can go to the woo side or whatever on this, but people who were born into this world have a more stabilized emotional regulation. That they're probably more genetic, but a lot of it probably does have to come with their earlier environment, or what they were brought into in certain ways. A lot of that, has to do, and it has to do with their personality. You can go through the nurture nature type of debate with psychology back and forth. I think there's truths to both of it. So I don't think you have to have some major traumatic thing to happen to want to change your life. I think you need to look at the areas everyone should really look at the areas of their life, and where am I dissatisfied? And why am I dissatisfied? Do I feel like I'm worthy of this? And that's the biggest thing I find with people is the self-worth. Do I feel like I'm worthy of this, to have the life that my friend has? Or I see the life of TV or celebrity. Maybe you don't, I don't want the life of a huge like Hollywood celebrity, but maybe do I feel like I'm worthy for that? And if I don't feel I'm worthy to have that, then that's what I need to work on, is that worthiness portion to you. We don't have to have I don't think we have to have major traumatic things happen to us to want us to change course in life. It could be a little bitty thing, a little wound that happened to us, or a little thing in life that we just get to the point. Maybe we get tired of who we are. We're bored. We get tired of doing the same thing over and over a day. Then we realize there's probably more to life than this. And getting up, going to work, picking up the kids from school, cooking dinner, crashing in front of Netflix, and then taking a shower and going to bed. That's a typical day for most people. And maybe they realize, you know what? This is boring. I don't want to do this anymore. And that's where they start to make the changes in their lives and in their overall well-being.
Thank you for saying that. You mentioned a lot, you touch a lot on unworthiness, and it's really interesting to me, such the stark contrast, the way our society is set up versus what we feel and what we don't feel, right? Like, just going back to, social media, before social media, we were, thinking about the fridge, the picture of that horse we drew that looked like a dog or whatever needs to go up there for validation, right? And now we're looking to get that validation from social media. How detrimental or not, or beneficial do you think that the validation that we get from social media actually is?
I think it's detrimental more than it is. And I actually saw this, I think it was a meme or something that came on. It says, how come we are not satisfied with the 20 loves or likes on our post? What if we walked out the door and 20 people complimented us on our outfit? We would get more validation from that than we would social media, because it's more authentic. I think people are craving the authenticity of the community, and they're craving that. They're wanting that type of validation over somebody can get behind a computer and just spout something off, or spout like something or like their photos or compliment their stuff. And what we don't realize, what we're obviously starting to realize is our posts are not being shown half the time. The people aren't seeing those posts. So we think if nobody liked it or if 3 people liked it, then I'm not worthy. I'm sorry, Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, whatever, just didn't show your post probably if it was valuable. Nor does that mean that it's anything to do with you. How many times do you go and like every single thing that you like going down? I don't. I'll comment a couple things for the algorithm. I try to stay off of as much as possible, but just for my own emotional well-being. But we tie so much into our worth and to what other people think and to what we have. And then we're on social media. And then we're looking at, Sally got a brand new Mercedes. How come I'm not worthy enough to have a brand new Mercedes? I don't have enough money to buy a brand new Mercedes. That means I'm not good enough. For this person's kid won this award, or your person's kid is a doctor now, or this person did this, they got their new house, they had this vacation, they did this job, and then we're comparing ourselves to everything that's good. But what people are not posting, which you do have some people who post way too much on, but what people are not posting is the argument they had with their spouse. They're not posting the meltdown their 3-year-old had in the middle of the grocery store, and how they may be posting that, but they don't how they yelled at their kid, or how they lost their temper, or how they did that. They're not posting that. They're posting pictures of that little 3-year-old looking cute and pretty and all the cute things it does. He or she does. So you have to that's not authentic. There's really nothing much on social media that's not authentic. And so I challenge everyone to be more authentic actually on social media, to give yourself a little vulnerability to it, within your comfort level. But go out and have conversations with people. But validate your own self. Validate your own self. And so it starts with gratitude of what you already have. It starts with, what do I already have? What have I already accomplished? That's I don't want to say your self-worth, your worthiness is not within your accomplishments, but that's how you start to see that. Start the gratitude of, I am so amazing that I am on this earth. I'm so amazing that I was chosen to be here, or I chose to be here, or whatever. I'm so amazing. I know how to read and write, if you know how to read and write. I'm so amazing that I can see these colors. And if you can just things like start to take for granted. The things we take for granted. If you have one arm, I'm so amazing I have an arm. And be so grateful for that arm, and be so grateful for your body and what it does for you. But your worthiness is really connected into your purpose, and I call that your soul and your spirit, of who you truly are. You can't take that away. You can take away social media, you can take away the cars, you can take away the kids can go away. Everything can go away. So if you've tied your value into those things, what do you have left? That's why you see people that have everything taken from them, and they really, really, really get down the core of, you know what, I know who I am now because everything was taken away from me that I valued in my life. You see people in impoverished countries that are happy and joyful because that's coming inside of them. They're finding that inside of their self, inside of their soul. They're not finding that validation from their friends or for community is super good, super beneficial. You need that. They're not finding that. It doesn't matter if their friends tell them they're ugly. They're like, okay, cool, I'm ugly, but I'm still valuable. I still have value to my life. I still have good things. My values it was in the love that I give to other people.
I really love that. A really powerful sentiment. And as you were saying that, something came to mind too. Just going back onto the social media, you put something up and you don't get, 1,000 views or 10,000 likes right away, and all of a sudden it's not, it's not valuable or it's not worthy. But this is where a dichotomy exists too, because we are holding in our mind that if we put something online to an audience of literally, I don't know what it would be now, like 4 billion people that would be reading stuff online all over the world, and we don't get, and we get, we don't get 3 likes. Well, what would you expect to happen logically if you went to like a big shopping mall and you just stood up on a bench and said, "Hey, everybody, check out my new outfit"? Half the people probably just ignore you anyway too. So I'm not sure why we expect to get instant, I don't know, almost like instant attention by posting stuff on.
Because it used to give us instant attention. It used to be, because think about when social media came out, it was the biggest thing and people got attention. Probably because, oh yeah, wow. And everybody told you what they were eating when they went to the toilet, every time they did whatever. I mean, think about the days. I'm dating myself here. That's what Facebook used to be. I think Facebook was like the first one that really got big, or MySpace or whatever. That's what it was. And that was, you only accepted your true close friends. And as we grew, I mean, I could tell you, I probably know 500 people, maybe 1,000 out of my 5,000 friends on Facebook. I know personally. It's so impersonal now. Now it's a social stance platform that we're acting like a bunch of celebrities out there and expecting to get the same paparazzi as a celebrity. But we don't want to face the consequences of that. I mean, think about all the bashing that goes on with celebrities. They post a picture, doesn't matter what it is. They could be fully clothed or fully naked or whatever. And they could be feeding their kids or they're going to get criticism no matter what on it. And we're putting ourselves in that place that I'm not saying they're any more important, but people look at reverence us that way. It's kind of strange to me. Now that I'm just kind of thinking it through, I'm like, that's really strange to me how we expect that. You know, we expect people to like our stuff. And we feel acceptance from social media. But when we start to look at it, and I love to use this example, when people that worry about what other people are thinking, like all the time, they're like, well, if I walk into a place, they're going to look at me and they're going to think I'm weird. People are more worried about you thinking they're weird than they are about you. They may look at you, they may be looking, yeah, that girl, she's a little strange. I'm just not going to have it, and move on. They're not sitting there analyzing you and breaking you down and tearing you down the way that we think that they are. They don't care. People are self-absorbed. So self-absorbed right now that they don't care. All they're thinking about is, what are they going to say next? Or how am I coming across as other person? Are they going to like me? That's exactly what people are thinking. And so we have to stop worrying about what other people are thinking. We have to stop worrying about our social media stance. We have to start worrying about this stuff. We have to start blocking that out because that is not truly who we are.
You know, that hits on so many different levels because, you're right that, we're expecting this same level of, love.
Yeah.
But we're not expecting all the criticisms. But I mean, and it's strange too, because you can get 20, 30, 50 good reviews or good comments. And then we have the one little bad comment that just sort of eats away at you all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, call it what you want, hyperfixation. What do you think is happening there when you've got all this evidence that, you're great or okay, maybe you're not great, but lots of people think you're great.
Yeah. It's because, okay, I think it's a lot of the way our brains are wired is that we're wired for survival. And survival, we have to look for the negative. We're looking for the tigers, looking for the bears that are chasing us. We're not looking for the beauty at the time, and we're all in survival mode. I'm taking most of us are in survival mode. And so what are we going to do? We're going to notice the negative. Why is news so popular? I mean, this has been going on for years. Why is everything about 99% negative? And they'll throw one feel-good story in there to make you not want to, lose your mind. It's because that's what gets your attention. Because we're all wired to protect ourselves. And we want to feel safe. And we're so unregulated that anything that does feel safe, that is supposed to be safe, doesn't feel safe. We're not supposed to have that. And it goes back to the worthiness portion too. I think when we're brought into the world, we have, when we're babies, we don't even understand I don't think we understand what worthiness is. We know we're worthy of being taken care of because we have to survive. But as we're taught, and if our parents neglected us that one time, or this and that, our worthiness levels in our mind starts to go down. So then we start to focus on the bad. And that's why the battle to limiting beliefs is the biggest battle I think people face. And once you can start to overcome those limiting beliefs, that is huge. Because criticism hurts. Because we want to, deep down, we want to be worthy, we want to be loved, we want to be somebody. We want to be special. Because that's what we wanted as a child too. We all wanted to feel special. That doesn't go away as you're an adult. You still want to feel special. And when one person doesn't think you're special, it hurts. And we trust that one opinion over all the other opinions for some reason. It really baffles my mind. And I'm not to say that I don't do the same thing at times too. It really baffles my mind that, but I think that's really kind of our wiring too, as a safety mechanism, as a protection mechanism. Back from the Tiger Day, coming down. Yeah.
No, it's definitely a good observation because, when we were running through the woods naked and afraid,
Yeah.
every little thing would kill us, right? Like the snake, or, oh, this guy he fell off a cliff, better not go near cliffs. This guy, he got bitten by, or he got eaten by a tiger. So therefore, you don't like tigers. But, we don't have any of those right now. But one of the things that was pointed out to me too is where all this sort of takes place in that back part of the brain, that sort of, survival mode part has been active for, I guess, like 150,000 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And we've only really had the reasoning or the regulatory portions of our brain for about 20,000 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess one would hope that over time this would become less and less. But
But we're in a society that totally bringing us down. If you turn on on TV, what is it? And you got in the U.S. you have pharmaceutical commercials that telling you that something's wrong with you, and you'll start finding symptoms. You find commercials for beauty that you're not beautiful enough. You find commercials of you're not cleaning your house enough. I mean, everything. There's no commercials, really, very few commercials that tell you that you're doing well, you're doing good. But you need this, that we're going to save the day for you. Like, if you buy this product, you're going to find your worth, that you're going to be worthy enough. You're going to be confident enough. If you buy this Coca-Cola product, you're going to look sexy enough. That's exactly what marketing is, and it works. And it works for a reason because we've allowed it to. We turn on the news. What's happening? We're in doom and gloom all the time. We get on social media. It's the same thing going on. And so we go outside and we talk to our friends. And what are they doing? Those conversations, if you sit around the water cooler conversations, or you go to happy hour, or you go to dinner, and that's why it's very important to select who you surround yourself with. But most people are going and they're going to complain about their job, their spouse, their kids, or their life. I mean, it's complaint after complaint. So if this is completely fed into your mind over and over and over again, what's the natural reaction? Is you're going to look for the bad. You're going to look for that because that's what your brain is wired and trained for. The great thing is we can undo that. We can start to unravel this stuff. And first of all, I think it starts with surrounding yourself with the people and the media and all the things and limiting all that and surrounding yourself by the most positive. I'm not talking toxic positive. I'm talking positive things that are truth and love and light inside your man. People do that for 90 days. I think my clients do it for 90 days. They cut that off. I've one client lately. He's like, he wouldn't even live in the U.S. He cut the news off. He's like, I feel so much better. And within a couple of weeks, I'm like, yes, because you're feeding your mind this stuff over and over again. We used to watch the news for the weather or for the local news, things that are coming up. You don't do that anymore. You get on the weather app. You get on the other stuff. There's not really an excuse to be able to watch the news. To me, there's no excuse for anyone to sit and watch the news over and over again.
That's a very powerful observation for sure, because, we tend to do that, all that negativity, and we just hone in on it and they monetize it. Yeah, so that's a little bit scary. But, Alicia, this has been a very good conversation. A lot of great points. We are coming up pretty close to the time. Is there anything that you wish that I would have asked but didn't ask, or anything that we didn't cover that you feel we should have covered today?
No, I just want people to know that they're worthy, and it's a scary step to start the healing process of anything that you want to heal and want to overcome, but it's so worth it. And to not give up on the process when it gets tough and hard, and don't shut down, and to seek the help that you need. You don't have to do it on your own. You don't have to sit there and wonder how to do it. There are plenty of professionals, plenty of people out there that are willing to help you walk through that journey. So,
excellent. Well, again, Alicia, just before we go, what would be the best way that our listeners could, reach out, learn more about you, maybe ask some questions?
Yeah, my website's the best way, aliciafarricielli.com. On the very top, there's a book a call link. You can book we'll talk about like 60 minutes or so. If you just want to call and vent to me and I'll listen to you, that's totally fine. But you'll get kind of a 1 hour, free 1 hour coaching session. I'll give you a few things to walk away with. If you want to continue to work with me, that's fantastic. We'll talk about how that works. I do have a virtual workshop for single women coming up. It's all over the world. Whoever wants to join in, it's $99 for a 4-hour workshop. It's like, I probably will never offer this price again. We're going to talk about the reasons why you feel you can't find love, why you don't feel value, and all the relationship patterns that you have been going through and how it's tied into your inner child. You're going to have so many steps to walk away with, things to think about, to work on, and to start to find the love that you actually deserve in your life. And it doesn't have to be romantic love. It can be, friendships. It could be relationships with anyone, that type of love. If you're coming across any type of struggles with that, definitely reach out and send me a message and I'll send you the information. And that is on April 5th from 10 to 2 p.m. Central or Eastern time in the USA.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Alicia. And to all our listeners, don't worry. Don't grab a pen and paper. We are going to have that in the show notes for you. So it's going to be easy to find. And, once again, Alicia, just thank you so much for your time and for being on the show. And, to all our listeners, thank you again for tuning in. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation and inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again next time.